Hi guys, my name is Biology Bro and I will be your aide for these 2 years in your GCSE Edexcel combined science experience. Hopefully you will find my videos useful. This is my first video ever, so I hope that is good enough for you guys. So let's start. So the first topic of this GCSE combined science topic is cells. Okay, so what is a cell? So a cell is the smallest unit of life that makes up all living organisms. So if you look below, these are all types of cells. So on the right, this is one that you'll be studying later on this year, and it's a red blood cell. So these are the things that are found in your blood. So there are two types of cells. So there are eukaryotic and prokaryotic. And if you don't know the difference, we'll get into that right now. So the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells is that eukaryotic means it has a nucleus. Prokaryotic cells don't have a nucleus, okay? So if you look to the diagram to the right, eukaryotic cells have a nucleus. So the nucleus is this small dot on the in the middle of the cell that looks sort of like an olive and has these X's inside. So these X's are chromosomes. Then on the right side is a prokaryotic cell, which we'll be learning about later, and it does not have this little circle, which means it does not have a nucleus, okay? So it makes it prokaryotic. So a nucleus, I'll give an example. So a nucleus is a membrane-bound organelle, which just means it's inside this line for each. It's not like outside the cell. That means it's membrane-bound. An organelle just means an organ found inside a cell. And it contains all genetic material of the cell, so all the DNA, okay? Before I get into the next slide, I want to explain to you that the nucleus is not DNA, okay? Nucleus is the organelle that contains the DNA. So think of it this way. You guys know what a pistachio looks like, right? So you know it has that sweet nut inside and it has that shell on the outside. The shell, think of that as the nucleus. So it's like the shell. And then on the inside, that's all the yummy DNA. So the first type of eukaryotic cell that we have is the animal cell, okay? So animal cells are eukaryotic, which means they contain a nucleus. And the animal cells on the right, obviously, here, guys. And these types of cells, so we have a ton and a ton of animal cells inside us because we are animals. And obviously, I don't know if you have a dog or a cat, but those are animals too. So they contain animal cells. So there are some organelles that are found inside an animal cell. So the first is a nucleus. So nucleus, it contains all the genetic materials of the cell. So this is that is this great red blob found in like the center of the cell. Then you have the cell membrane, which is like the outlining of the cell. So this holds the cell together, doesn't let it split apart, and controls what enters and leaves the cell. Then we have the mitochondria, which are these brown beans here. So these are used for respiration and it gives energy to the cell. I don't know if you've heard this term before, but it's the site of respiration. That's what the mitochondria is. And then we have the cytoplasm, which is like, imagine a neighborhood, right? The land that the neighborhood is built on, that's like the cytoplasm. That's like what these organelles are on the cytoplasm. It's like where the sites of many chemical reactions take place in the cell. So without the cytoplasm, these organelles would have no home. Then lastly, we have ribosomes. So ribosomes are these little dots right here, and they're found on the rough endoplasmic reticulum. You don't need to know this for GCSE. Just know that ribosomes are used for protein synthesis, okay? You'll learn about this in IB. Next, we have another type of eukaryotic cell. Remember, there are only two types, animal and plant cells that are eukaryotic. So plant cells are eukaryotic also, which means they also have a nucleus, and these plant cells are found in all plants in the world, like such as Venus flytrap, strawberry, banana, sunflower, violet, whatever you can think of. Okay? So there are some common organelles that are found in both animal and plant cells. However, plant cell does have a few extra that you need to remember. So the organelles that are the same are nucleus, mitochondrion, cytoplasm, ribosome, and cell membrane. Then the three that you need to know that are only found in plant cells and not in animal cells, just added on extra. First one is permanent vacuole. So it's this green blob that's found in the middle of this plant cell. Okay, so this contains cell sap. Remember, it contains cell sap and helps to support the shape of the cell. Okay, cell sap is just like nutrient-rich substance that helps the plant to survive. Then we have the cell wall. So the cell wall, you know how I said for the animal cell it has this outline? So the plant cell has two outlines, so like two lines on the outside. The cell membrane is on the inside, but the cell wall is on the outside. So it's like the shield of the plant cell. So the cell wall is made out of cellulose and it gives support to the structure of the cell. So as you can probably see, it's in the shape of a rectangle and the animal cell is just in the shape of like a regular blob, okay? The reason why it's in the shape of a rectangle is because of the cell wall. It maintains its shape, gives it structure. Then lastly, the third extra organelle that you need to remember for plant cells is the chloroplast. So the chloroplasts are these green blobs here. So what you need to remember for chloroplast is that it contains green chlorophyll pigment, okay? So without chloroplast, plants couldn't make their own food. This is due to chloroplast being used for photosynthesis. And if you didn't know already, photosynthesis is how a plant gets its food because plants don't exactly eat food. They take energy from the sunlight and convert it into glucose, which is just energy slash food. Okay. Then moving on to prokaryotic cells. So prokaryotic cells are ones that do not have a nucleus. So if you remember what I said earlier, the nucleus is like the shell of the DNA. Since prokaryotic cells don't have this shell, the DNA is just found in the cytoplasm, so it's loose. We call that naked DNA, okay? So instead of a nucleus, they have two types, like two types of DNA in this bacterial cell. So first are plasmid rings, and secondly are circular loops of DNA. So bacteria are like microscopic single-celled organisms. Single-celled just means like very, very small and only one. And I'm pretty sure you know what bacteria are. It's like when you have hand sanitizer and the hand sanitizer says kills 99.9% of bacteria. Those are those like little organisms found on your hands. Okay, so there are some common organelles that are found in all three types of cells. So such as cell membrane, cytoplasm, and ribosomes. However, there are some differences. So first of all, obviously you know that this one doesn't have a nucleus. So first, just like the plant cell, this one has a cell wall. However, this one is made from peptidoglycan. So plant cell wall is made from cellulose. This one is made from peptidoglycan. Okay. Then it has plasmid DNA. So plasmid DNA, these are like circles of DNA that are in the cytoplasm. So if you look to the diagram to the right, they're like these little circles. Then next you have the circular loop of DNA, which we should say chromosomal DNA. Okay. So this is DNA of bacterial cells that are just found loose in the cytoplasm and is not contained within a nucleus, aka like a shell. Lastly, we have the flagella, okay, which is just a tail. So if you look here, it's not labeled here, unfortunately, but you see these two little strands, these two little black strands. So these are the flagella, okay? So a bacterial cell can either have one or more flagella, and the singular way to say flagella is flagellum, which is L-L-U-M, and these are just used for movement. So movement is a basic necessity of all living organisms. Everyone needs to move. Yeah, so it's just used for movement. So after I've gone through all of this, if you need, you can go back in the video, but I want you to answer these questions, okay? It's not your fault if you get the last one wrong because it is the hardest question for now. So I will give you guys, let's say, 5 minutes to go through all these questions. You can look back, rewind the video, and once you finish answering these questions and writing it down somewhere, either on a piece of paper or in your head or just on your OneNote, then come back and unpause the video and I will go through the answers. So pause the video now. So hopefully you've answered the questions and I will go through each of the answers now. So the first question is, what does it mean if a cell is eukaryotic? So the answer is, it means that the cell has a nucleus, okay? Then next, what organelles are found in plant cells but not animal cells? So you guys remember the three extra organelles that I talked about. So these are permanent vacuole, cell wall, and chloroplast. Okay. Then, what is inside the permanent vacuole in plant cells? So that green blob in those plant cells, what's inside of that? So it's cell sap. So that's that nutrient-rich paste. Okay. Then the fourth question. Instead of a nucleus, what do bacterial cells have instead? So they have two types. There are two things instead. So there's chromosomal DNA, which is that loop of DNA, and plasmid rings. Fifth question. What is the use of ribosomes in cells? So they're used for protein synthesis, okay? Lastly, the hard question. Why do plant cells have chloroplasts, but animal and bacterial cells don't? So this is because chloroplasts are used for photosynthesis, and only plant cells do photosynthesis. Okay, so as you probably know, we don't do photosynthesis, and we're animals that have animal cells. Bacterial cells don't do photosynthesis either because they get their food and energy in a different way. So hopefully you guys have found this video very useful. Don't be afraid to go back and answer these questions again if you have gotten some wrong. And good luck on these 2 years. It will be very stressful, and hopefully you're revising moderately. Don't stress yourself too much, and I will be posting more videos in the future. Okay? Good luck and have a good day.